On this day in history, December 23rd, 962, the Sack of Aleppo as part of the Arab-Byzantine Wars occurs, in which under the future Emperor Nicephorus Phocas, Byzantine troops stormed the city of Aleppo. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica going over the history of the city. As early as 2000 BC, when the kings of Aleppo held a great kingdom, the Hittite monarch Mershal I swept down through the Taurus passes and took the city. The pharaoh Thutmose III seized it, 1490 BC, when he marched north, laying waste the settlements of the foe of wretched Naharan. About the middle of the 15th century, its king allied himself with the king of Hanagobat, but the Hittite Tudhaliya I defeated them and sacked Aleppo. The city recovered, only to fall victim to its successors, Hattushil and Subil Uliuluma, and later of whom made Telepenush, his son, its king. The region became the battleground between Egypt and the Hittites, and the struggle for its possession is reflected in the preface to the treaty, circa 1310 BC, between Mershal III and Rimi Sharma, king of Aleppo. At the Battle of Kadesh on the Orontes, 1288 BC, when Ramses II barely escaped defeat, a king of Aleppo took part on the Hittite side and was all but drowned. The Egyptians have depicted on their monuments the wretched chief of Aleppo turned upside down by his soldiers after his majesty had hurled him into the water. In 854 BC, Shalmaneser II of Assyria visited the city and sacrificed to Adad. Seculus Nictor, 312 to 280 BC, enlarged Aleppo and named it Beoroia, after the Macedonian city. In 164 BC, Menelaus, the fomenter of war with the Asmoneans, was put to death by being thrust down into a tower filled with embers, a form of execution peculiar to the place. The name Halab reappears with the Arab conquest of Syria, 638 AD, when the city was occupied without opposition by Abdul Ubayyad. The Hamdanid Saif Eid Daula, 936 to 967 AD, who called himself king of Aleppo, made Halab his residence, but the Byzantine Nicephorus Phocas surprised and sacked the city, 962, but failed to capture the citadel. It was temporarily occupied by John Zimisces, Emperor of Byzantium, in 974. Shortly afterwards it received and acknowledged the Egyptian Fatimids, and twice, from 1038 to 42 and 1058 to 60, Egyptian troops garrisoned the town. From 1090 to 1117 it formed part of the Seljuk dominion. Then succeeded the unsettled times of the Crusades. The Crusaders, although they seized its territory, never occupied the city. They besieged it in 1118 and again in 1124, Baldwin II, when after 4 months it was reduced to the utmost extremity before being relieved by an army from Mosul. The 12th century saw 3 serious earthquakes, 1114, 1139, and the most serious of all, 1170, after which the city had to be rebuilt by Nur ed-Din. Benjamin of Tedula visited it in 1173. Saladin made it his northern base and stronghold against the crusading princes of Antioch, 1183. The Tartar invasions of the 13th and 14th centuries engulfed it, and with the rest of Syria, it came under the Mamluk sway at the end of the 13th century. Aleppo surrendered to Tamerlane when he made an incursion into Syria, 1400 to 01. The Mamluk rule in Syria was finally overthrown by the triumph of the Ottoman Turks under Selim I in 1517, the decisive battle being at Merj Dabik, a day's journey west of Aleppo. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, it remained in Turkish hands. In the latter part of the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, it suffered grievously from internal feuds, in which the Janissaries took an active part, which were exploited by the Ottoman governors for their own ends. Earthquakes in 1822 and 1830, and visitations of cholera in 1823, 1827, and 1832 left the city a wreck, and its population greatly diminished. It could offer but feeble resistance to the army of Muhammad Ali of Egypt in 1833. It then became the center of Egyptian domination in Syria until it was restored to the Turks in 1840. Tumults and massacres of Christians occurred in 1850 and 1862. On October 26, 1918, it was occupied by part of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force and in 1920 by the French. Aleppo became part of the Syrian Republic set up by the British and fighting French, September 27, 1941.